There has been some drama.
If you would like to learn about fairy folklore, delve into modern fairy faith spirituality, and explore fun and fanciful fairy-themed events, please subscribe to Fairy Fortunes for new videos every Friday.
Hello, my fair friends. I'm Ruby Ruse, and on today's episode of Fairy Fortunes, I would like to share with you a little bit of my personal coven drama. Yay! I guess we should probably start by first kind of talking about what a coven is. Traditionally, according to, I think, Margaret Murray, is that a coven is between 3 and 13 people. Now, there was a lot of reasons behind that number 13. 13 is supposed to be the number of the moon cycle. It's supposed to be a number correlated with witches. And also, according, I think, to Margaret Murray again, is that 13 was a play off of Judeo-Christianity in that it was representative of Jesus and his 12 disciples. And then a coven with those 3 to 13 people is supposed to come together and work magic together. I actually think that 13 is too many people for a coven because I think that covens need a little more intimacy. And I really feel that you can't really have that intimacy beyond about 9 people. Once you go beyond 9, you're going into more of an organization. So let's talk about my drama. Yay. Bunny Mom! So I belong to a coven. We actually prefer the term circle, but it is a coven in that it is between 3 and 9 people, not 13, between 9 people. And we come together and do magic together. We meet often on the full moons and usually on the pagan Sabbats. It's mostly a remarkable experience. I feel like I've held the universe in my hand with these people that I work with in my coven. However, why are you watching this video? Get to the point, right? So what happened was that we invited this young woman to join our coven circle. Initially, we thought that she was interested, and we thought she was a legitimate person. Another unfortunate thing is that we invited her to join our circle when we were hosting our meetings online. We were using Zoom during the height of the pandemic. But now we think actually that she was recording our Zoom meetings and sharing it with people outside of our circle, and that they were making fun of our magical practices. We found out about this through a mutual friend of hers and ours. This mutual friend felt obligated then to tell us. The 2 main targets of her consternation, apparently, was our circle leader and then me. And then me, yeah. She wanted to steal our coven leader's glamour magic because he was able to convince everyone that he was such a beautiful person, and yet he looked like Shrek. My coven leader does not look like Shrek. He is one of the most brilliant magical practitioners I've ever met. He's also one of the finest human specimens I think I could ever hope to be around. He is a beautiful person, inside and out. Then with me, she, I believe her words were that she couldn't stand the fairy cop. She also said that I was racist. Well, I mentioned that it did actually hurt my feelings as I laugh. You know, what else can you do but laugh about it now, you know, but it did hurt my feelings. The other thing is that she doesn't believe in fairies, which would be fine. Everybody has different experiences. But our coven does work with fairy spirits, so I'm confused as to why she wanted to practice with us, since that's an element of our spiritual work together as a coven. And so she is no longer in the coven. It's a painful process when you have to remove somebody like that from your coven. The truth of the matter is that this particular incident that happened recently with this woman brought up some old feelings with another person in our coven that we removed as well. A few years ago, we had another coven member. He was disruptive. We had a personal falling out. We had a fight over nothing. It was a fight over nothing. It was something that happened in my personal life. I made a post on Facebook. I know. It's just, all of this is getting worse, isn't it? I told you it was coven drama. Okay. Anyway, I made a post on Facebook. I was like, whoa, this crazy thing happened to me. I'm kind of freaked out about it. This is how I handled it. You know, it was one of those dumb Facebook posts that we all make, you know, I had this for breakfast kind of thing. But anyway, he took issue with this post that had nothing to do with him. And he just went off. And oh my goodness, he was vicious, just absolutely vicious. And he was able to, unfortunately, push every single button I had. I said some nasty things back to him on Facebook. Like, God, like how stupid can people be, you know? But after the ridiculousness, you know, escalated, I was like, this is ridiculous. This is my coven mate. Like, this is a friend of mine. So I apologized to him, and I'm like, I'm so sorry that I said those things. You didn't deserve that. And I left it at that. And I really honestly wasn't looking for an apology. I didn't think it was worth fighting over. Like, we were really being horrible to one another, and he didn't deserve that. I didn't deserve that. Our friendship didn't deserve that. Our coven didn't deserve that. And I thought by extending him an apology that it would end the fight over nothing on Facebook. But unfortunately, it didn't. And he renewed his attack. And I thought about all of his previous behavior, because it wasn't like this just came out of the blue. Like I said, he was a very disruptive and aggressive person. And it was during this ridiculous Facebook post that I was like, this person is not my friend. So I terminated our relationship, and then I contacted our coven leader, and I said, listen, I do not want to worship with this person. And so I stayed away from the coven for, I think, almost 6 months, maybe even a year. I stayed away from the coven. But the coven leader convinced me to come back. And so I decided that I was going to put aside my personal feelings and be there for the coven. And so I agreed to attend a ritual, and I was told that he knew I was coming. And I believe my coven leader told him that I was going to be there. And when I was there and he showed up, there was this like big dramatic exit that he made, and then he went. My coven, we use a social media group. We have a little social media page that we've secreted for ourselves, and we share like things, projects we're working on, and sigils and dreams and things. It's really cool. My coven leader calls it our online book of shadows. It's really kind of fun. This person actually blocked me from that group. He made this like ranting post on the group page, and it was just like, it was like insane. Like, we're talking like maybe he needed to go to a mental hospital insane. Like, it was wild. I didn't read it then, of course. I read it when he decided to leave the group and I was reinstated. And he called me the fairy cop too. They were both very painful. And like I said, this new girl, this new mistake, I guess, this new bad fit, this new taker and deceiver, I guess. She reminded me of the first time around, you know? And it hurt my feelings. I will say that those experiences really got me to thinking about what a coven is, what sets it apart, why someone might want to be inside a coven rather than just being a single or solitary practitioner. More importantly, it helped me identify some very important red flags. The difference between a coven and a magical organization, of course, one of the elements I think is the size. Once you get beyond 9 people, you're going into more of an organizational territory. Because a coven, I think, is supposed to be intimate. You don't have to be best friends, but you definitely have to be friends. You can't really be acquaintances in a coven, whereas in a pagan or magical organization, you can be acquaintances, but in a coven, it's intimate. And within that intimacy, in a coven, when you're doing magic together, there's an element of vulnerability. Like, you have to feel safe in a coven, which is, there it is, right there. That was the reason behind my drama, is that these people harmed the coven. They made it unsafe for all of us, and it was just sad. But I'll get back to that. Anyway, I digress. You do have to have a more solidified friendship rather than an acquaintanceship with the people that you're doing coven magic with. A coven is supposed to kind of push your boundaries a little bit, get you to go a little bit deeper into your magical practice, to really like harness your abilities and work with the energies of other people to harness their abilities and share in that magical power together. So you've got to be intimate and you got to be vulnerable in a coven. And I think another difference between a magical organization and a coven is that when you're doing ritual within a magical organization, like if you go to a big pagan pride event, usually there's a big like ritual for everyone that everyone can join in and be a part of. And those are really great experiences. I highly, highly recommend it. But with an organization, the ritual is the responsibility of the organization. Like, you as an attendee, all you have to do is just show up and have presence there. But in a coven situation, you really have to contribute more than just your presence. You have to contribute in some way to that ritual. So the responsibility between coven and organization has a lot to do with the responsibility. So the ritual happens because of the organization in an organization. But in a coven, every single member has to have some kind of commitment behind that ritual. Another thing that these dramatic experiences taught me, it really solidified in my mind what the hierarchy of a coven is. A coven starts with 3. The reason being is that one person is not a coven, that's a solitary practitioner, which is perfect and fine, and that can be a very practical and spiritual experience just on itself. If you add a second person, that's a magical couple. And once again, that is a very powerful setting. It's still not a coven. It's when you add that third person that now you have magical energy. And if you think about it, yes, 3 people make the 3 points of a triangle, but that's if you spin the triangle, now you have a circle. It creates the coven. And so I do think that those, in addition to the point person, the leader, there's got to be 2 what I'm now calling spinners. The people that spin the circle. Now, everyone that comes after those first 2 are still important, of course, but those first 2, in addition to the leader, I think have very powerful positions and they are the spinners of the circle, and they help the leader stabilize the circle. And I think that's one of the mistakes that I made in my coven, is that I was very much trying to be just supportive. I was trying not to take on a leadership role. I kind of shirked responsibility when it came to my coven, and I think that's bad, because now that I look at it, I am a spinner. I have always been a spinner. I was actually the first person, I think, that was brought into the circle. And I think that I have a responsibility then, as that spinner, to protect the circle. I also think that this experience is kind of going with the concept of spinner, these dramatic experiences with these two really awful people. They're awful people. It has helped me redefine the term elder. Elder is a term that's tossed around in the pagan community. I don't think it means what people think it means. I'll tell you what it means, because I'm pretty sure I know now with all of these horrible experiences that I've had. An elder is not necessarily somebody of advanced age, not in the context of a magical coven circle. If you're going into a coven, the elders of the coven are the people that have been there the longest. So the leader obviously is an elder. The two spinners, in addition to being kind of the lieutenants, having the responsibility for protecting the circle, they're elders. And then, for example, the fourth person could be an elder, but only if there's 5 people in the coven. So once you get to that 9th position, the elders are the people that have come before. That's what an elder is in the context of a coven. And I also think that that would be the same in an organization. Your board members are your elders. They are the elders. And I don't care if there's a board member that is only 20 years of age. They are the elder of that organization, at least for the time of their term on the board. With this woman that came in, she thought she was older than us. She wasn't. Definitely not older than me. And same thing with the man before that, is that he actually was older than everyone else in the coven except me. And he thought actually that he was older than me. And I was like, really confused one day. I'm like, no, we're the same age. But that was the thing, is that he came in from this position of arrogance. Here he was, kind of a new person into our coven. And he decided that he was just going to take over because he was this elder, because he was older. That's not appropriate. The elder is the person that has seniority in the coven. They're the people that have been there longer. They're the people that have been practicing with that coven longer. So I don't like it when these stodgy old farts come into places and want to take over because, oh, I'm old, move over. I'm never allowing that to happen again. An elder is a person that has magical seniority, period. I don't care how old they are. If I go into an organization and a 20-year-old board member greets me, I'm going to treat them with the respect that they deserve. They are my elder, period. So let's start with my red. I'm laughing because of my first red flag. You ready? My first red flag is actually social media. Oh yes, it is. We live in a social media world. The man that I had a fight with, remember that fight was on social media of all things. Oh my God, it was so stupid. Social media. But what's interesting too is that this woman that, like I said, that was recent, She never reached out to me on social media. And I have identified that as a red flag, because we also have some, we've had guests before in our coven, and usually what happens is when we bring a guest, when somebody brings a guest to our coven, immediately I get a reach out on social media, on some platform, that the guest contacts me and like is excited to know more about me and my personal magical practice outside of the coven. And this woman never once reached out to me, and she had attended like I want to say like 4 or 5 rituals with us, and she never once reached out to me. And I did kind of sense that she was real standoffish with me, but I was like, oh, well, you know, maybe that's just her way. No way. If somebody does that to me again, I'm going to be like, nope, they're not allowed to come back. I'm putting my foot down as the spinner elder. I'm like saying no to that. But if you think about it, in a coven, this is an intimate experience. This is an experience about trust and vulnerability, and that you don't have to be best friends, but you can't be acquaintances. You really kind of have to develop a friendship to be a part of a coven. And if you can't connect with a friend on social media, how are you expecting to connect with that friend on a spiritual level? Now, some people don't like social media and they don't have it. Like, that's, I guess, fine. Although, I don't know. In this day and age, I would be like, you know, we do a lot of stuff online now. And if you don't have social media, maybe this is not the right coven for you. Another red flag that I identified is that with these 2 problem children of our coven, I was thinking back on our experiences together, and I realized that even with the people that have moved away, like I haven't been to their new homes across the continent. We live in the United States, it's a big place, haven't been to their new homes, but I had visited them in their own environments, like in different environments, multiple times. Like, we were friends. I went to their birthday parties. I went to their homes. Like, I supported their endeavors. But the 2 exceptions were with these 2 problem children. I had never once been to their homes, and I think that that is a big deal. And once again, it's kind of like that social media thing. If you're not willing to connect with me, if you're not willing to bring me into your space, like your physical space, how are you supposed to allow me into your spiritual space? Like, yeah, it's a red flag. And in fact, we do have another member that we are probably going to initiate, provided that that's something that they want to do. And I made the stipulation. I said, before we initiate, I want a home visit. I want to see where this person lives. Like, I want to have dinner at their house. And this, you know, they were down for it, actually. So, like I said, they want to be a part of what we're doing. They want to be a part. We want to be a part of each other's lives. So if somebody doesn't want to welcome me into their home, they're not going to be welcomed into my coven. Another red flag that I've identified is gods. Gods. Oh, gods. Gods. Usually in a coven context, there is a particular set of gods that the coven people worship collectively, but not necessarily outside of the coven. But when they come together as a coven, those are the gods that they recognize and call to and ask for support for coven matters. So if you don't worship gods, because paganism is broad, it's a broad thing, and mysticism is broad, witchcraft is broad. You don't have to worship gods in order to practice witchcraft, but you do have to recognize the power and the being of the god when you go to a coven if you want to be a part of that coven. And And what's interesting is with both of the problem children that are no longer with my coven, they absolutely refused to acknowledge gods of any kind. Like I said, that is not necessarily bad. That does not necessarily mean that they are a non-spiritual person, that they are not a powerful wielder of magic. It just means that they really shouldn't have been a part of our coven, because our coven works with particular gods, and we work with fairies. We work with fairies. So if you don't believe in those things, why on earth would you want to be a part of my coven? Another red flag that I identified in both of these people that left my coven is that they were very covert about the kind of magic that they were working on. You don't have to talk about every single magical thing that you're working on, but the idea is that you're supposed to be there to support each other magically and spiritually. So if you don't want to do that, then you shouldn't join a coven. The other thing too is that, particularly with the male person, is that he had very strong opinions about what magic was, and he was very black and white about it. And with my coven, is what we're really interested in doing is we're interested in pushing our magical boundaries. We're into experimenting with new concepts. And I know that for me personally, there's been some times where we've done some magic that made me slightly uncomfortable, because it just was something that I had never tried before, and it was really intense. But I went for it, and I delved in, and I did it, and I'm so glad that I did. But the other thing is too, is that for the most part, I felt really safe in doing that with those people. So, and my thing is that not every coven is doing that kind of experimental magic. But if you are invited to attend a coven and you find out that that's the kind of magic that they're working on, if it doesn't jive with you, that's fine. That's just not the right coven for you. And I think another reason that I was so hurt by all of this, and I was so disappointed by all of this, is that I really had some inklings that these people were not a good fit, and I didn't say anything. I didn't trust my own instincts. I didn't contribute enough. I think that's another thing too, is that I'm really disappointed in myself that I didn't speak up about my concerns, that I didn't trust my instincts, and I didn't trust that I knew in my heart what was best for the coven. I pushed away the responsibility. And I'm very disappointed in myself for that. And so if you're looking to join a coven, I just want you to know that you don't have to, because especially young people in the magical community think that the end game is joining a coven. Yeah, coven is apparently a responsibility. I've been in a coven for years, and I learned the hard way that being in a coven is a huge commitment, and it's about responsibility. So if there is no shame in not wanting that. So you are no less of a magical practitioner if you are solitary, or if you are in a coven, or if you simply just want to be in a less committed organizational situation. Don't let anyone tell you that you are less of a magical practitioner because you are not in a coven. I think that if you have the opportunity to either visit a coven or be a part of a coven, I do think it is a valuable experience. Definitely this experience has shown me what commitment is. It has shown me what contribution is. It has shown me that I need to be more responsible. If you like this video, I think that you would also enjoy my video, New to Witchcraft, Try Abby's Tips. And for additional content, please check me out on social media. I am active on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you will find all of those links in the description box down below. And with that, have a magical day and hopefully one free of drama.